All right, guys, I am so glad to be bringing you a gem from the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And when I say gem, this brother is black gold. You hear me? Don't play. All right, and we're going to be talking about a really good subject today. So you guys are definitely going to want to stick around and add some comments. We're going to leave you some information where you can find us, add some comments to how things went for today. This is the webinar. With me, I have a founding member of the wonderful little organization that could called Blend. You're one of the founding members of Blend. He was a church planner, everybody. Now, don't get it twisted. I think that has something to do with business, but and church, right?
Yes, yes.
So he was a church planner, and now he is the proud owner of Malamaya Juice. I think you're going to see some exciting things or listen to some exciting things that's going to be coming out of this because Malamaya Juice is doing some wonderful things. We're not going to get into it too much right now. I'm going to let him explain it. But I am on the line with Jermale Eddy. Mr. Eddy, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate you. We're going to be talking about the Black business pivot. Good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's right.
All right. So, hey, Jermale, thank you again, man. I'm appreciating you today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate just all that you do, all that you've been doing. You're in this thing as a long game, not just a quick little something here and there, dropping them nuggets, planting those seeds. So I really appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you, man. I do everything I can. I tell you, I was talking to somebody the other day and I was saying, they were asking me what I charge, right?
Yeah.
I says, well, if you catch me on Wednesdays, I do these things for free. I do these things called Work for the World Wednesdays. And she says, Work for the World Wednesday. I said, yeah, I have people come on, they hit my Calendly, and I said, all I do all day long is just give it away. Right? I don't charge for it, nothing like that. Whatever question you have, I'll try to bring as much value as I can, bring my, years of experience and education and all that stuff to bear on whatever your situation is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Work for the World Wednesdays is one of the things that I do to just give it all away. Now, don't get me wrong. I find a way to monetize things on the back end, but in the meantime, I don't charge folks, man. So yeah, I appreciate you. And this is what we're going to be doing on the Black Business Pivot. This conversation is really important because we are experiencing, and I say we, y'all, if you're seeing us on YouTube, you see what we look like. But if you're hearing us and our diction is in such a way that you couldn't tell, then let me tell you, we are Black businessmen, and we're going to be talking about how all of this stuff that's been happening, depending on when you're listening to this, we could be right in the midst of the COVID-19 fiasco, and it is just absolutely decimating the Black businesses. And as a result of that, Black businesses are faced with a decision.
Yep.
We're at the precipice of having to do something. And a lot of businesses, Jermale, you know this, they don't know what to do. They know they got to do something. And they're thinking about maybe even closing the door. So when we think about the Black business pivot, what comes to mind? Share with our audience what that is.
Yeah. Essentially, speaking on that word pivot, it's making a shift. It's making a detour. You thought you were going to get to a destination going one specific direction, and then you get there are some roadblocks. And so you need to pivot, you need to shift, you need to turn, you need to go a different direction. Now, keep in mind, I just said go in a different direction, not stop. You got to go in a different direction, go around the barrier to get to where you're going. So we're still trying to get to where we're going, but it's not looking, the roadmap isn't looking the way we thought it would be. It's kind of like, back in the day with the GPS, sometimes you didn't update your maps and you would go somewhere and you're like, wait, where is that road? Well, you had an old map. And so right now, the maps are getting outdated quickly with COVID. And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to update our maps. We're trying to pivot. We're trying to rotate so that we can still get to the end result. And that's multi-generational wealth by way of having a successful business.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing. So when you think about the long game, this is something that we had talked a little bit about, off mic. We talked about what we do in the long game perspective, right? Because these things that are happening to a lot of the Black businesses, there are going to be some short-term stuff. If it doesn't kill you, you will be better. You will be stronger. And that's why we look at it as a pivot. I like to use the good old standby of the basketball analogy, right? So, with the pivot, you could take one foot and move it around, and it positions you better to maybe make a pass or make a shot. Now, you can't move that other foot because then your steps. Right. Back in the day, we called it steps, but in the NBA, they call it walking. So here's the big deal, though. If you now have a chance to move in a different position, pivot to place yourself better so that you can make the pass and we're just using analogies here, but it really just means so that we can survive, right? To live another day, to sell some more products or whatever it is. That pivot then allows us to not walk, not step. You guys seeing what I'm talking about here? Not get a penalty. Because I look at it as bankruptcy is perhaps the penalty because it's going to come with its own problems. So here it is. What I was really concerned about and really kind of like in my head, just shaking my head about it was like, why do we have to always pivot? I mean, why do we have to pivot anyway? What's going on underlying our businesses that makes us have to pivot?
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting question. I think most Black businesses are fragile right now, and there's so many reasons why Black business is fragile. The foundation of that is just how we have been treated historically, what we had access to or what we have not had access to historically. So we're a little more fragile. If we didn't, if a chicken didn't receive all the nutrients and nutrition and whatnot over the course of that time, the shell of that and integrity of the shell will be compromised. And a lot of Black businesses have a compromising, I guess, covering, if you will. And that's not to say anything about their product, their customer service, their service, or anything like that. It's just that we're at a disadvantage. And so being at a disadvantage, being more fragile, we have to pivot even more when something hits, when COVID-19 hit, when a pandemic like this hits, we can't just stand our ground. We can't just stay here and say, all right, you know what? We're going to wait out the storm. Nah, we got to run for cover. But while we're running for cover, we also got to look down the road towards the future to say, okay, what is the future going to look like? While we're running for cover, who are we taking with us? What are we taking with us? What lessons are we learning? And then how, once this is all over, when the devastation hits or whatever that may be, how are we going to be able to move forward? What did we do to survive? Who do we bring with us? And how are we going to be moving forward? And I think with this pivot, those are things that I think about often. How are we moving? Who are we taking with us? And then how are we going to move forward? AKA, what is success going to look like down the road? That success. What is success going to look like on Saturday? Or what is success going to look like in December? Or what is it going to look like in 2021 or 2022? And again, I think there's just so much at our history that forces us to pivot. Now, some might say, man, you guys are being very resilient. But, sometimes I ask the question, like, why do we always have to be the resilient one? I'm just putting it real. Why do we always have to be the resilient one?
That's real talk.
The reason is because we've been at a disadvantage. And again, that has nothing to do with the quality of the services we're rendering. It's just how the history of America has worked against us. And I'm encouraging folk right now to just get creative on how to pivot, who to bring with you, and where you're going to go. And some of us may have to do some merging of some things so that we can be stronger and fortified. So when the next thing hits, because there will be a next thing, that will be stronger and will be built to last, because we are built to last.
And that's a good long range view again. So, he spoke a little bit about the undercapitalization of the Black business, right? Look, whether we like it or not, it's a fact. Why are we undercapitalized? I can remember having a conversation with you, and I don't know if you want to share this with your audience, but your business has already started now. And you says, man, they gave me just enough.
Yeah.
All right. Now Jermale was going into a really nice area. We're not gonna say who it is, but when you were doing your build out and you were saying, when I got the original monies in, you said, I got just enough. right?
Yeah.
Now think about that. That's
Yeah.
that undercapitalization piece.
Yep. Yeah. When we started, keeping in mind we had no business experience, we had no industry knowledge. We just went on a hunch. We felt like the Lord was telling us to move on this idea. I quit my job, and then shortly after started the business. And so we didn't have no money. We went to the banks and whatnot. They said, "Oh, if it's under $100,000, that's family and friends money." What family and friends you're working with, send them my way. So they said it's family and friends money. We're like, okay. And then at one point in time, it was like a bunch of no's. And then one bank said yes. One funder said yes. And they gave us a fourth, 25% of what we asked for. And we didn't know enough about business to say if that was good, if that was bad. We knew it wasn't 100%. Right. But we said, well, we feel like we're going to do this thing. We're meant to do this. And so we took it. And luckily, we didn't have to go back. But the fact of the matter is that we had a lot of people in our community who had our backs, from sales and from telling and speaking and being salespeople for our business. And at times we didn't know it, getting us contracts here and there where we didn't have to go back and get that money. But again, we were definitely under-resourced from the beginning, but it just happened to work out in our favor.
And again, why is the Black businesses having to pivot? Well, guess what? Again, we talk about that undercapitalization. We talk about how we started. So now we got to play catch up. And then, we also obviously have to think about the patronage, right?
Yeah.
Who is, and what kind of business do you have? Who are you expecting to come into your business, right? If you've got low patronage, come on now, it's not a Black business. It's a business that happens to have Black owners, right? Now you created, in this particular case, you created the juice.
Yep.
Everybody loves juice. Everybody's trying to get healthy. So it was one of those businesses that was able to transcend, right? I think the racial barrier, if you will. So that patronage is something that probably helped you.
Yeah.
Because we hear this all the time. If I had to rely on my Black friends and Black, patronage to make my business go, it wouldn't.
Yep.
Which is a statement, probably something for another day. But here's the thing, and that's a reality.
Yeah.
So when we think about that, why at times like this do we have to pivot? Well, low patronage. Sometimes it's the cash flow that's related to all of those situations. Sometimes it is invoice to invoice.
Yeah.
It's a fact of life, right? We're living sometimes from invoice to invoice. And that's something that we're going to be talking a little bit about this at the end. We want you guys to stay to the end because we are going to not just, highlight the problems, but we've got a couple of things that we can offer as solutions,
right?
From the minds of us that have been in it and have watched it and have learned about it, have cried over it. So we're going to be talking about some things. Here's one other one. What about tools? What about the tech tools? What kind of tech tools that the Black business might not have, so that when there's trouble, we got to pivot or we got to give up?
Well, Randy, let me say something really quick here about patronage, like you had mentioned before, is that sometimes when you start a business, you have in your mind who your customer is. When you're building that business plan, it's like, who is your targeted audience? So you have in your mind who your target audience is. But then you have who your actual audience is, who comes through the door. Sometimes those can be two different things. They might be the same. Sometimes they can be two different things. And sometimes you have a crossover product, right? I'm thinking now, my head's going like Motown and all this stuff, the crossover artist, the crossover record. Sometimes you have a crossover product. And if you can have a crossover product, that gives you a larger audience. So I just want to say that, because we had in our mind that we were going to have one demographic, and then we seen that it was a different demographic. Now, today, we see that they're both our audience, but in the beginning it wasn't. But we were able to bring two audiences together and make this thing work. So I want to make sure I mentioned that.
And that's a good one to get into, because when we were, so this is just a suggestion, right? So as you're putting together your business plan, and I know we were going to do it at the end, but sometimes opportunity presents itself to do a little advising, right? So think about that, guys. If you're out there making and creating your businesses, you may have one demographic, right? You may have the psychology of who you think it is. And then you find out, oh my goodness, they're coming to eat my barbecue, or they're coming to eat my soul food, or and when I say they, other than what you thought was going to be your target audience. Now, sometimes you have to plan forward and plan backward. Yep. Planning forward, of course, is saying, okay, if I only get 25% of my target audience, who else can I sell to? Who else can I present this opportunity to? Yes. Who else could this product help? So in your business planning, start thinking about that. Start saying to yourself, well, here's the best case scenario and here's the worst case scenario, but here is the mitigation of those, the problem areas. I think that would help you maybe get past that 25% funding. But then at the same time, you're saying they might only give me 25% of what I actually need. So then how do I have my actual and my planned, right? I'm actually needing $1 million, but I'm going to plan for 3 million because they're only going to give me, or 4 million. They're only going to give me 25%. Yeah. You hit it. You're like, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I think that if you get discouraged and you stop, what that tells me is you actually don't believe and stand by your products and services. If you believe so much deep down in your soul about your products and or services, you're like, okay, I'll take that 25%, but I'm gonna make it be that 3 million, that $4 million or whatever it is. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make them come back to me and ask me, is there anything else that you need, Mr. Eddie? Is there anything you need, Soderbergh? That's what I strive to do with the business. And, I can get a little bit petty sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make you wish you would have got the contract. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I'm going to do such a good book of business. Yeah. But that speaks to, having the kind of chip on your shoulder that makes you succeed. Right. I never forget when I watched Michael Jordan. He was, getting his Hall of Fame and all the pain that came out during that time, right? I mean, he was memed forever, right? Because, tears and all that. But the point is he succeeded because he was in pain. He was trying to show everybody that did not believe in him. I'll show you. So to some degree, hey, look, whether we like it or not, fear and anger can fuel you in business. It may be the thing that you say, you know what? Tell me I can't do it and I'm going to do it. Yep. Right. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate to you. And then in that demonstration, now we have the banks and stuff coming to us saying, what can we give you? Yeah. Right. Now, I was watching something that Byron Allen said when he bought the Weather Channel. Right. And the people were like, the what? Yeah, because guess what? It's not a black or white business. It's the Weather Channel.
It's the weather.
And he said that he actually went to, and I don't want to quote him verbatim here, but he says, he really came into it like, hey, look, he went to people that were loaning money. He says, you have a problem. And they were like, well, we got a problem. We're a multi-billion-dollar, venture cap. He says, well, because you're multi-billion-dollar venture cap, your returns need a big investment. So give me 300 million. And when he said that, I can remember the interview, the guys that were interviewing him, they just like, what? 300 million? You says, yeah, that's not a lot of money. He said, it's not a lot of money because whoever you're talking to get that investment to them is the right amount of money to get them the kind of return that you have. So now as a business owner, we got to start thinking about that, right? What do I have as my offering? Yeah. And then what is it in that offering that solves a really big problem for the banks? Yeah. Or whoever wants to loan you money. Yeah. How does it solve their problem? Right. And then maybe they go, you know what? We'd like to solve that problem at 100%, not 25. I mean, this is something to put on you guys' minds because listen, during this time, here's a big thing. Bankruptcy is looming for a lot of companies. Yeah. A lot of black businesses, man. If they showed me their books, I can tell you that they're only a certain amount of time from a cash flow perspective away from bankruptcy. Yep. And a lot of them are holding on. A lot of them are saying, you know what? I can't go down because if I go down, I'm not going to get another ladder. That's a shame. But listen, why is bankruptcy such a bad word for black businesses? Why is it such a bad word for black businesses?
I think again, we're talking about systemic racism and discrimination wrapped up in there. You can admit it if you want to or not, that there's a difference between black bankruptcy and white bankruptcy. Even when we talk about, I know we're not on this subject, but the word embezzlement, there's a difference between that when it happens to Black individuals and to white individuals. For Black folk, it might be embezzlement and all in the news. For white individuals, it might be a misappropriation of funds. Okay, you know what I'm saying? A misuse, or you're supposed to put it in this pot and you split it up between these pots. It's okay. At least it's still there. That doesn't happen to us sometimes. And then same thing with bankruptcy. As I'm looking out here and seeing some of these companies do that, it's like, there's a company right down the road. They're filing, I think it's Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is a redistribution of debt. But for a lot of Black businesses, you file bankruptcy, they got your house, they got your cars, your credit's jacked up for 7 years, and then you got that on your record. You're losing out on everything. And I gotta also say, there's pride. Your pride is taken as well when you do that. A lot of Black businesses don't get a second chance. Many of us have worked so hard at getting the first chance, thinking that, especially pre-COVID, the business that I'm doing right now, this is the business that's going to be a foundational step stool for multi-generational wealth for my family. It didn't start before me for whatever reason. I don't know what my dad was doing, what his dad was doing. I know there was a whole lot of laws and policies in place, but for some reason today, the Lord has given me a vision to do this. And I'm going to create multi-generational wealth starting right now today. Bankruptcy snatches that away. You don't get, we oftentimes don't get a chance to redistribute debt. And also, we don't have any access to assets that we can liquidate or cash in or sell off to allow us to make it from A to B, so that once B hits, we can be smooth sailing. That's what happened to the community when the recession hit in 2000. Well, went down 2008, but it was a recession. 2008 to 2010. Is that we didn't have, as Black America, we didn't have any assets. We lost our worth, our financial worth and impact in the community. We were already behind, but we lost even more. And other individuals gained because they had assets that they can liquidate. They had money stashed here and there in different accounts that they can liquidate. And many of us don't. We're depending on our business to do what we needed to do now and in the future. And bankruptcy snatches that away. It does not redistribute. It just takes.
And that's that living invoice to invoice. So now listen, again, what we're going to be doing is talking a little bit about the obvious, right? So don't nobody call up and say, hey, oh yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. We understand that to be the case. So this is not one of those conversations. What it is saying, hey, here's the awareness. But within what we're going to be talking about, within our own experiences, how we can now share maybe a couple of tips and tricks that kind of help you think about it a little bit differently, prepare for it a little bit differently. And then as you're building your businesses and as you're building your, whether it's a product business, service business, whatever it is, that you're considering some of the things that we talk about, look at some of the warning signs and then say, okay, how do I now, again, mitigate the potential loss, right? I don't mean to drop the big words on you, but I just came across that one the other day and I said, oh, I like that word. I'm gonna use it. Anyway, but that becomes what we are now trying to do here, right? So when we think about bankruptcy being such a dirty word, right? And you have different ways it's applied to you, right? It's not a reallocation of debt. No, they come and take your house, take your car, and then maybe they say, oh, by the way, you didn't pay some taxes and we're gonna, you now have a bill that you got to go and, work off. I know companies that are individuals that had companies that are now working jobs and they're still paying off the debt from the business, right? So it's unfortunate that a lot of the Black businesses are one and done, right? You just get so whooped up, you get so embarrassed that you're just done. And it doesn't matter if it's a church that went bad or if it's a bike shop. It doesn't matter. Sometimes when it hits the Black business and all that comes from it, you just go, you know what? I'm just tired. Well, we're here to encourage you today. We're here to say, look, forget about that. Let's start doing and using some of the models that are before us. And I'll give you an example just from my own life. I don't mind saying it. I remember a time when I had, probably three too many properties, that were not leveraged right. Back in the day when I was in the house flipping, I was buying the real estate, blah, blah, blah. And then things turned. The economy went to heck in a handbasket, right? And I found myself with these properties that were older, they needed repairs. The city had done a really interesting thing and says, hey, yeah, by the way, we need money too. So we're going to send out a whole bunch of people to inspect your properties. And by the way, you got to pay us for all that. All that became one of those tsunami moments where I had to literally say, am I going to go down or am I going to sell off? Go down by trying to keep it or sell off. So what I did was I played bank. Now, here's the thing, because I had the assets, I was able to do some things, model some things that I've seen others do. Y'all know what I'm talking about when I say others. I've seen others do. You say, okay, here, you take them all. I sold them all except one. Sold them all, right? And says, I got a check for it. But then as you look at the balance sheet, it was an actual loss on paper. Wait a minute, how is it a loss on paper? Well, because you got real estate and all the machinations of real estate, because you didn't get the price that you could, and because I was packaging those things. You see where I'm going with this? So what was I was able to do? Take the loss because of the laws, take the loss and apply that to my balance sheet. That made everything better. And that's what Jermale talked about earlier. Do we have the assets that allow us to do some things? Can we play the bank for a little while, right? Can we sell off some stuff? And because of the asset, it now creates a loss, which is actual income. Come on now. This is what I'm talking about. These are the things that we have to think about as the Black business so that we can pivot and not go under. Jermale said it earlier. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. It's not about stopping. It's about rethinking what we need to do. So here's something. What then, in face of COVID-19, right? It's all on us, man. And I think this is going to be a long range things. What should the Black business do then? Let's kind of get a little bit into that. Now we want to talk about solutions, y'all.
Man, number one is like, it's hard to weather a storm by yourself. It's hard to be stranded on an island by yourself. When I say that, I'm thinking about the I forget the actor's name. The movie where Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
He was
in a beach ball.
Yeah, Wilson, right?
Wilson.
He had to create a friend, and he still kind of was kind of losing it or whatever as he was waiting for that mechanism to save him or to rescue him, or waiting for the times to get better. But he needed to create that. And so one of the things that we have to do is we need to create us a circle, a bubble, or get us a group of individuals that we can talk to. Sometimes sometimes you can't share this all and drop it all on your spouse during pillow talk. You can't talk to your kids about it. And then we also got to recognize that, we may have a best friend. That's cool. But I believe that it's okay to have multiple best friends, because everybody is utilized in a different way. You got one friend that you're talking about marriage with. You got another friend you're talking about business with. You got another friend you're talking about issues and addictions with, right? That's okay. So I want to encourage folks to think about a group. It doesn't have to be a men's conference, a size group of people or whatever. Maybe there's a group of 3, a group of 5 or whatever that you can talk to. Maybe some of them are in business, some of them are not. It's good to have people in different industries that you can be real with, but also who won't just agree with you. We don't need nobody else agreeing with us. We agree with us. Get someone who don't mind keeping it real, who can disagree with you and tell you where you went wrong at, and then that you respect them enough to know that they respect you, that they have your best interest in hand. So that's number one, Randy, is to get you a group of folk that you can talk to about your business. It's good to have some who have some business knowledge, but it's also good to have some who don't, so that they don't have a bias on it. Because at the end of the day, I guess we all have some business experience because we're all consumers. So you might have that one friend, that'd be like, oh, no, your juice is nasty. That's probably the reason why don't nobody want to buy. We need that. So that's number one, is really getting that going. And I say number two is thinking about, I guess I'm trying not to use the word technical assistance, but an accountant, a CPA. If you don't have an accountant, if you don't have a CPA, right now is a good time to do it. And I want to encourage you not for it to not be your cousin Joe or something. Go out there, get some recommendations. Sometimes you got to pay good money to get a really good accountant. I'm paying some good money for an accountant. I started shopping around recently and started looking at these cheaper ones and whatnot. And then I thought back about the value that my accountant brings to me, as well as how many services he's offered me and didn't charge me for. But I'm thinking about the value of that. So those are two things that you have to do. And then the third thing is to think about how to reinvent yourself, how to reinvent your business, how to pivot. What are you going to do? If you were offering goods, do you now need to offer goods and services? Or do you just need to offer services? And you can get that information by surveying your clientele, your customers. You can create a focus group online, or if you want to do the social distancing in person and whatnot, depending on your product or whatever, the service, you may have to do something a little bit in close quarters. But really start to, because we all have great information at our fingertips. And some of us aren't using those email lists or phone number lists that we've created with our business. So I would encourage you to do that. And then this last thing, Randy, I'm going to say that there's just a few in this category. Okay. And some of you all who are listening to this, watching this, you may be in that category, or you may know someone. And it's very few. Some people are out there watering and fertilizing something that's already dead. Okay. It died, or it needed to die, but you wouldn't let it. And then COVID came, and now you almost have an excuse, if you will, if you want to give it that title. I got an excuse. Oh yeah, COVID shut me down. But the idea wasn't fully thought out. It wasn't matured. You didn't do your due diligence. And now you're throwing money into a black hole, and you're not going to see a return. So that's what I'm talking about watering something that's not going to grow, fertilizing something that's not going to grow. Those of us who are homeowners, we know what it's like to have a high water bill. And sometimes it can be something as simple as there's a running toilet or a drip in the faucet. The church that we planted in Texas, we had a $2 million water bill. We found out that it was 3 years worth of water from an underground sprinkler that had never been turned off.
Wow.
So those are my tips. I know that last one is kind of like a ripping the Band-Aid off, but that's just a real conversation that you could have with your accountant or CPA. If you have a law team, a lawyer, which you should have a registered agent or a lawyer, and then that group of friends, or that group of I'm going to call them board of advisors, personal and business board of advisors that you can talk to and try to walk through this thing. Because maybe this business that you have now, maybe that isn't what you're meant to do tomorrow. Maybe that was meant for 2019, but 2021 is something totally different. And I'm a firm believer that all things work together for good. So the learning that you did right now during COVID, pre-COVID, is not going to go to waste. It's going to be utilized. It's going to be fuel and fire to get you to whatever that next thing is.
Oh my gosh, that's such good stuff. He's getting an amen from me, because when he talks about the pivot, and then he talks about how do you pull from the advising that you get from others, right? And you'd be surprised where good advice comes from. It may come from someone that's driving your Uber, driving your Lyft, driving your cab, because we don't know the life that they lived. We don't know what they've experienced that got them to where they are right now, but they are this, we don't know the books that they read, and they just have chosen to use this platform to make their money. who knows? I was thinking about this the other day. I says, who knows that very smart Lyft driver, very smart Uber driver, very smart cab driver could drop some information on you, and then you may reject it because you're saying, hey, you're driving a Lyft. But then that person says, you know what? It gives me massive flexibility. I have time to think. I have time to write screenplays. This gives me a couple of dollars, but it also gives me flexibility. And as a result of that flexibility, this is what I've learned, and now I can share it with you. Do not reject where good advice could come from because the person may not look or may not have, or be in the same arena as you. Get that information, put your board of directors, board of advisors together, however that look. It could be a whole bunch of books. And if we want to go with the Tom Hanks analogy, he had Wilson, right? Wilson, and he talked to Wilson, but it's just a metaphor for having someone you run ideas by, having the books that inform you, having the YouTube channels that inform you, having the LinkedIn conversations, the articles that inform you. But then ultimately, you got to be the one that implements and decides. You don't want to get into a situation of overwhelm, which, quite frankly, I don't personally believe in. I believe in you're underworking. And if you're underworking, you're going to get overwhelmed. But if you're constantly putting it out there, constantly trying things, it is about that, right? So that's a couple of suggestions that I would suggest here is pivoting to another business model. It's something that I put in the notes here.
Yeah.
A business model, right? So I was thinking about Starbucks, right? Starbucks was a place that I absolutely, used to love going to, and I had to give them up, but too much caffeine, too much sugar. So, okay, that's done. But anyway, but I noticed one of the first things that they started talking about was, hey, you know what? The idea of how we built our business, of having people come in and sit around is gone. We are now shutting 400 stores and we're going to drive up only. That's a pivot. Right now, they're going to shut 400 stores, but they didn't say that they're going to stop delivering the thing that they built their business on. They're just going to adjust their business model, just like Jermale said earlier. Adjust your business model. You were a product business, now you're a service business. You're a service business. Is it something that you can now say, I create a product? Are you in the information space like I am? I'm in the information space, right? So I say to myself, what can I create from every single possibility, every single thing that then could go out and help people? We're doing this webinar. That is information. If you can pull a kernel of an idea from what we talk about, and you don't go make popcorn out of it, you say, I'm planting that so then I can get a row of other stalks. Then I can make popcorn. That's playing the long game, but that's also changing your business model a little bit, right? And going out there saying, wow, could I be like Starbucks? You don't have to be them, but you can use and reverse engineer some of what they're doing. What about Chick-fil-A? Man, I tell you, I saw something that they were doing and I thought, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And I think it's Chick-fil-A. I saw an article and they had a picture of a Chick-fil-A person with some kind of rain gear on. And it wasn't a raincoat. It was like a tent. You remember seeing something like that? It was a clear see-through tent that they put on and went out and talked to people in their cars. And then they had a mobile device. Now, we talked a little bit about earlier, the tech tools. They had a mobile device that they could go to the car, get it paid for. Now, think about that. They have now created customer utility. In other words, they have created something that customers go, this is awesome. So what I thought of when I saw that rain thing, I thought, man, what if somebody went out and bought a whole bunch of those rain tents and gave them to the homeless?
Yeah.
Now, from seeing one thing now, you could potentially go, not only just take the idea, but maybe 2 or 3 comes from what you're noticing. And if you in your business have the flexibility, right, and the dexterity to change and adjust and adapt, maybe you then could successfully pivot and you don't have to go down. You pivot into a different area. Now, just that one idea with the rain hoodie or the rain tent, I thought that would be great. You know, you can
Mm-hmm.
give that to the homeless. They got this thing on, you know, they're not getting rained on. Just a small little way to get away from the elements. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the business side of it, what are you also incorporating that you saw another business do? That's what I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about on the business modeling.
Yeah, yeah, Randy. Let me say this too. Like, you know, since you mentioned coffee, I'm gonna bring up a local Michigan brand, Big B Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
They're experiencing a. I just wrote this down here from looking at my notes, y'all. I ain't texting my girlfriend or my wife. The same person, by the way, girlfriend and wife, same person. I want to show you that. But 6.2% growth
During COVID.
Yeah. Starbucks had a 5% growth, and this is same store growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dunkin' Donuts 2.8% growth, right? Now, as we talk about the pivot, now Big B didn't start doing this during COVID, but they created a new model that took up less space. They have this thing called the Cube. I think it's called B Cubed or Big B Cube.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pre-manufactured coffee shop that they can drop in less than 48 hours, less than 2 days,
Wow.
have you up and running. You know, obviously health department, all that stuff has to be in place. It's the size of 14 parking spots. So if you think about the mall, think about some of these places that aren't getting as much traffic as they used to because people aren't going to the malls or people aren't going to the movie theater, whatever that is. 14 parking spots. How much does it cost to lease or rent 14 parking spots that weren't being used anyway? They probably almost want to give that away until they see how successful your business is. Now, this model doesn't have a walk-in model, but nobody's walking in during COVID. Drive-through and walk up. That's all they have. And this thing is blowing up. Yeah, yeah. And some of them don't have to have a walk up, you know, depending on how much space you have or how you want to do it. But that model, and talk about how much capital it takes to put that down versus go build an entirely new building or remodel an old building. That bad boy come in on a truck, and in 2 days you have your business going. That is talking about it. They did a pre-pivot, and now that thing is starting to take off. And so I just want to throw that out there that they were looking at being pandemic proof before the pandemic hit.
And get this, you guys say, oh my goodness, somebody's new to that, and they go, that's awesome. Guess what? That's not a new model. I'm getting ready to hit you guys with something that didn't succeed, but that's like a kernel. It did not succeed, but y'all remember Get 'em and Go? Y'all remember Hot and Now?
Yeah.
Right? It was get your burgers and go. It was a literal, it was before its time, ahead of its time. It was a drive up model only.
Checkers.
Get them and go. Yep. And then they expanded on it. And now Checkers and Rallies are still around. But Get them and Go and Hot Now, to my knowledge, are not. But it was these little buildings, right? And there's one still, I think, standing over on East Paris and and Eastern Street, right?
Yeah.
It was this was years ago, y'all. This was probably 90s. But Get them and Go kind of, create the seed. So now if you're reverse engineering this, Black businesses, we're talking to you. If you're looking at that and asking yourself, okay, what could I pivot to? If it's not an actual Big B, right? If you don't want to go get a franchise or whatever, but can you use the principles? Yeah. The principle is that you're still serving a customer. You're just doing it in a whole different way. Now think about your business. We saw it. We saw a lot of restaurants that, are still not open, right? Black restaurants that are still not open because they didn't employ some of these models early enough. I don't know if they was waiting for some COVID-19 money or whatever it is, but I enjoy going to those restaurants, and it would have been really nice, right? Because, hey, look, let's be honest. Consumers will forget you.
Yep.
Because somebody will take their place. And then you look over there and go, well, I'm good. Here you are. You could have been in the neighborhood. You could have been in business for years. But because you didn't employ just some small way to stay in front of your customers, to stay top of mind, to stay in, on the email list, whatever it is, because you didn't do it, they forgot about you. Yes. Now, we don't want that to be the case for our Black businesses. So that's why we talk about this in this particular way, right? And then we're going to get into some personal pivots, how we personally have pivoted.
Mhm.
Now, Jermale, I want to ask you, how have you personally pivoted with your business? If you, as
Mhm.
much as you want to share.
Sure. Yeah, we're always looking at like, what do we need to change? How do we need to get more of this, that, the other, within our reach, because we don't want to overextend ourselves, and then can't meet the obligations, right? We don't want to get $1 million contract and we can only produce $100 worth of stuff.
Yep.
Whole other conversation.
You
Um,
can't scale.
right. But what we did was the first things first is we just closed for one day to rethink and re-strategize, right? And then we said we could close indefinite, but that's not what the governor and the executive order said we had to do. It was a suggestion. Some people was like, we don't know what to do. Woo, we're going to close, right? We still got bills due. My kids still need to eat. My oldest, we paying for braces. My youngest need glasses. I can't stop. And so we immediately stopped dine-in services of Malamog Juice Bar and Eatery. We started only doing bottled juices. So we switched the model and just did bottled juices. Therefore, I'm delivering juices with my vehicle. You see the Honda Pilot pull up, that's me. And then for anyone who wanted juice outside of a certain zip code, because we didn't want to overextend ourselves,
Sure. Yeah.
we use FedEx. So FedEx is delivering to LA, to Austin, to New Brunswick, New Jersey, to New York. And so we just did a delivery Saturday to Huntsville, Alabama. And so we allowed that to happen as well. And so we just did that shift. We did that pivot. And that cost me a little bit because I'm using my personal vehicle to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't at the time selling our juices. I'm sorry, we weren't selling our smoothies. We weren't selling our salads, but we were doing something that's sealed. So, folk will know that, nothing's happening from a germ perspective. That bottle has been made fresh and it's been sealed and sanitized, and we're delivering it that way. I think that was kind of giving consumer confidence in our product. But we also said that, and you said it earlier, Randy, how do we keep our brand and our name in the mouths and in the mind and ultimately in the stomach of people? We don't want the pandemic to end and they be like, hey, what was that one black juice bar? It was somewhere downtown. Did it have? Yeah, we don't want that. So we made a decision to keep going, and that's how we kept going. And by us keeping on, that allowed us later here, just 3 weeks ago, to get our juices, our bottles of freshly made juice, on the grocery store shelf at a local store here, Bridge Street Market here in Grand Rapids, in downtown Grand Rapids. And that first week, we sold 70 units of our juice, 70 units. And I say week, I'm talking about in 5 days, from a Wednesday to a Sunday, 70 units. That second week, that first 2 weeks, we were refilling store shelves 4 and 5 times each of those weeks, and I just did more this morning. We got another round going later. And so our pivot took us, actually what it did was forced us to step on the gas of something that we wanted to do anyway. We just had all the excuses of why we shouldn't do it. And so when COVID hit, it's like, what about that one idea? And we ran to that one idea and it paid dividends. Now I have other grocers calling us, VPs of large, I ain't gonna put the name out just yet because I want y'all to be surprised when we be like, bam. But VPs calling me about getting the product there. And so now we're testing this out to say, hey, does Malamaya Juice Bar have a motto or something that can exist outside of West Michigan, outside of Grand Rapids, outside of West Michigan, and kind of similar to what Big B did when they did a smaller model. And do we then need as much space as we have? Because if you go out in our dining room right now, it's boxes and bubble wrap for our juices and a few tables. So will we get to a point where we're, in a way, pandemic proof, where we don't have to depend on the walk-in traffic, but we're getting our bottles out there to everybody who wants them? We love the walk-in traffic. We do. We love the salads that we're selling and smoothies. But even with that, will this bottle model that we're doing allow us to think about, okay, how do we get our salads on those shelves? How do we get our smoothies on those shelves? You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
one thing is leading to another, but the baseline of all of this is we thought to ourselves, how do we not be forgotten by our customers. And then let me just drop this other piece. As we also said, in the midst of a pandemic, we have more going out financially than we have coming in. How do we still serve our community? Right? So it's like, how do you give out of your lack, not your overflow? Now, we have an overflow of love for people. That's about all everybody has these days, and advice for everybody, right? But we said, how do we still love in our community? How do we still love and towards others? And so we started doing fundraisers with some of our juice, our Justice juice, famously known. We said, hey, we're going to increase the price of this juice a little bit. And then we're going to take the difference so that we don't lose anything. We're going to take the difference and donate it to the organization in Minneapolis after the George Floyd thing, to donate it to the Grand Rapids Pride Center, to donate that to doula services because she's supporting Black women who die at a higher rate than white women or any other race or ethnicity group during childbirth. And also our infant mortality rates are higher in the Black community. So we donated to them as well. So again, not only is the customer and community seeing us out there delivering our juices, they're also seeing that we're still serving our community. And I guarantee that we've probably gotten an additional, I don't know, maybe 30 customers, maybe more than that since COVID hit because of these things that we're doing.
You guys hearing that? Man, I'm telling you, those are seed plantings. Sometimes when you look at your dinner table and you say, you know what? Dinner's going to be a little lighter because we're going to take some of these seeds and we're going to give them to other folks. Now, keep in mind what he says, that we are giving the seeds with the idea that maybe they plant them, right? And as a result of you giving, Malamaya juice seeds, somebody plants it and it comes up and it's branded you. Right. Yeah. Those are things about this is what we want you to do, is be able to take this information and go, wow, can I reverse engineer what he just said? What do I need to do? Now, I'm a big proponent of staying in touch using specific activities, right? I got courses on this stuff, on emails, how to go out and just absolutely be in touch with folks using the automation of email, et cetera, right? Telling people what's going on, letting them into what is happening within your business, and then how they can get involved. And you'd be surprised, guys, get this. You would be surprised with who will support you, right? Sometimes you get checks and you don't know where they come from. Sometimes you get cash apps and you go, where'd that come from?
Yep.
Right. But guess what? If you don't ask, you don't get. Mm-hmm. The whole, closed mouth kind of a thing. People want to see how they can help, right? This is the way it is. Let people be the hero. That's okay. If you're sitting over there still riding pretty because you need to keep the image, I'm going to tell you that's your ego trying to keep you broke. And I tell people this all the time. You may have heard it before. Don't let your ego keep you broke.
That's right.
Your ego says, hey, don't let people know that you're hurting. Don't let people know that you're past pivot stage, that you might have to make another decision. That's your ego trying to trick you, right? But what would happen if, like Jermale talked about, now y'all heard very briefly, hey, look, there's more going out than coming in, but let us still do this. Mm-hmm. Y'all heard that, right? Now, we obviously want to turn that, sure, and by making some different choices, because the outgo is obviously a function of something. Mm-hmm. We can look at all the outgo. That's one of the number. I got rid of Netflix. I can tell you my pivoting story, right? There's a lot of things that I says, let me get rid of the things that's causing me not to do more things. So Netflix, sorry, I got to go, right? I already have Amazon. I'll just deal with those old movies, right? You see what I'm saying? But because they're old movies, I don't want to watch them. So I should be in my office doing more of this. I should be talking to more folks. You see what I mean now? And you get rid of the expense. Mm-hmm. The double expense, the expense of time, and a little bit of expense of money. Why I gave up coffee? Well, quite frankly, I was spending, get this, don't hate on me, y'all. I was spending $10 a day. Y'all do the math on that. That was $10 a day, because typically I go and I would, get my $7 or $8 drink and I tip the rest. That's $10 coming out a day. times 7 days. Do the math. Yep. Right now. Now get this. I'm in, I work online. I help people build businesses online. I do all this. I should be running ads, attracting more customers. So what I did was I took that money. I literally did the math on it. I took that money and I says, okay, how can I make what I'm giving up now make me more? Right? I didn't just take it and, and who else could I give this to? That's what I talk about, the Work for the World Wednesdays. Well, guess what? On this Wednesday, I'm not spending $10. I'm giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of advice. That's seed giving, because it takes one idea sometimes, one way to look at your business that you can get from, like Jermale talked about, the people you put around you that could propel your business. And Jermale knows, because I'll text him all the time and I'll say, hey man, have you seen this? Have you thought about this? And he'd be like, dude, look, I'm in the middle of dinner. Leave me alone. I'm not trying to think right now. I'm trying to eat. But this is because you have put seeds out there. So people want to give you stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Think about your business. Can you do some of that stuff? Now, you did some things on a personal level, right? You got, you started a new opportunity for yourself because of the wisdom you gained. I'm talking about J.E. Speaks. I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
What is J.E. Speaks?
Well, J.E. Speaks is myself, Jermale Eddie, really just speaking, finding ways to speak truth, finding ways to speak basically my experience, and being able to share that with others. I've done so many things over the course of my life. I had a 10-year career in higher education. In that career, I worked at a Christian institute, private Christian institution. I worked at a for-profit institution and 2 public institutions. One in Texas, some in Michigan. I did a church plant in Texas, started a church, worked for nonprofits. You know what I'm saying? I've done quite a few things in my time, and I want to be able to share that with others. I want to be able to share the lessons, the heartache. Talk about how it is to run a business with a family that still needs to eat. Talk about how it is to run a business alongside of your spouse, how we did for the first 3 years, and even talk about social capital and how to start a business with $0 in your pocket like we did. Malamite Juice Bar was birthed during a time where we owed more on our home than it was worth. We had overdraft fees, we had credit card debt, we had car debt, and we had 2 kids. And then I quit my job and started a business. How do you do that? Yeah, who does that? We have, I think every 5 years we have a season of who does that, including my wife started a PhD right now during COVID. But anyway, but this J.E. Speaks will really get at me sharing my experience with you. So it's business coaching, it's business consulting, it's the speaking engagements and workshops, and sometimes it's just, and I guess it's still the coaching side. Sometimes it's just being able to listen and affirm what someone is doing. Sometimes it's the hard conversations and the hard advice, but other times it's just affirming people who are just now starting to pull the weeds out of their life and whatnot. And maybe they're not yet ready to start planting seeds. They're just trying to get the soil right. And those are things that I'm passionate about doing, as well as talking to businesses who at one point were interested only in the bottom line. I'm now talking to businesses who are saying, man, we see you out in the community and doing this and doing that or whatever. We want to do that too. Can you help us get out in the community? Because now they're starting to realize the effect that has on their bottom line in their business, for good or for bad. And for some people, with them not doing that, it's for bad. And so they're asking. I had lunch the other day with somebody who asked me that question or whatever. I was like, I bet you would like to know, wouldn't you? Call me tomorrow.
Let's talk. Here's what I charge. Grab it on J.E. Speaks or grab the system. And the great thing about what when you had actually announced that, I thought, because I think maybe a year and a half prior at a men's retreat, we were talking a little bit about one's experiences and how those things can be packaged. Right? I'm the monetize your life guy, so that's all I think about is how to help people monetize their life. I've got the monetize your life system, and I got the monetize your life series. And it's really speaking to everything that you've ever done. Let me show you how to monetize it, right? Whether it could be your business or it could be your personal. Now, we talked about the pivots on the business. Y'all heard that. Now, this is how you can pivot on the personal, how you can now take the collection of your experiences, and create something for it. Again, I walk people through it through my, the courses and stuff, but listen to what we're saying and start asking of yourself, what more can you heard them, give. And as a result of that giving, what seems to come back? And a result of that 360ing, how you're in favor, how you're building up goodwill, how now as a result of that, you can now speak into more lives. That extends you past the business, right? And it also, again, it is doing the generational wealth, but you're also building extra lanes, right? You are becoming more than you were yesterday. You're more than the sum of your parts. This is how you put it all together. So as you listen to us and the things that we're going to be talking about here coming up, specifically on this one, we talked about how JE Speaks can speak into Black businesses. But we're not just talking about Black business with JE Speaks, right? And this is Jermale's. It's not mine. I got my own stuff. My point is that, listen, look at how he has built this. Some of it from pain. You heard the story. Credit card debt. You got little kids, young kids that need to eat. A business, a pivot, a time when you're going, why are we doing this? Don't you need to stay working? Right? But you're going out on faith, and you're going out and saying, I'm making this happen. I have will and I have belief. All this stuff is what we wish for you. We want you to have be a part of that stuff. All right. So here's one of the questions I have before we get into some of the solutions to all the stuff we've raised. It is pivoting capitulation, right? And I thought, don't say that word. Is pivoting giving up? Is pivoting giving up? I want us to attack that, man. When people might go, well, isn't pivot just really like giving up?
I mean, it's simple. No. Period. Like, it's not. It's pivoting is survival. Pivoting is. Here we go. Pivoting is the result or the product of learning. So pivoting is the result of learning, of lessons learned over time. Look, I'm thinking about equations now. I'm about to write it down. So pivoting is the result of lessons learned over time, and then pi r squared. No, but it's the result of lessons learned over time. And lessons learned over time could mean something wasn't working, so now you need to do something different. It could mean that something was working, and because of the duration of time, things have changed and it's no longer as effective as what it was. And so now you're going to pivot and go a different direction. It could be like, man, at one point, the best way to keep food warm was in newspaper. And then over time, it was like, oh no, the best way to do it is in foil. And then over time, the best way to do it is in a clamshell container. And then you want to poke some holes in it so steam can release to not make your food soggy. So a pivot essentially is necessary if you're going to be doing something for the long haul. It's necessary for longevity. There's nature pivots season every year, every season. There's a pivot in nature. When leaves are falling now, someone put a quote on Facebook. I forget who said it, but it was like, the leaves are falling off the trees, and not one tree is worried. Why? They have a deep.
I think that might have been me in some other way, but yeah, that's what's up.
It has a deep root system. They're not worried because their roots are deep, they're connected, and they're strong, and they know their purpose. And so as long as you know your purpose, when you pivot, you're not getting away from your purpose. You're actually solidifying and fortifying your purpose. And that's all that a pivot is.
Oh, did y'all hear that? As a person that also writes books, I heard a title: "The Falling Leaves Doesn't Worry the Tree." A falling leaf does not worry the tree. It's like, whoa, if I saw that, I might be intrigued by that title, right? The falling leaf does not worry the tree because it is a part of what happens. So as you're thinking about the pivoting of your business, the pruning of your business, it's the thing that could help it grow. So a limb has to come off so that multiple limbs could have more nourishment to grow.
Yep.
And you guys heard that, right? We know this intellectually. We understand this. So the question becomes, why are you holding on to something that is not going to grow? Why are you watering an area that might not grow? Is it ego? And we're here to tell you, ego will keep you broke. So let's really evaluate some of these things and ask ourselves, how can we pivot, right? Let's get to a point where we go, okay, now what do I do? Now I can remember, even looking on YouTube and seeing Jermale, he would say, applying for another loan. I don't know if I'm going to get it, or a grant. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Right. And I says, man, which one are you applying for? And he would tell me, he says, look, here's one of the things.
Yeah.
I think one of the deals, you was like, well, if you applied earlier, some of the other loans you're not available for. Yeah. Some of the later loans would have been better for you. Mm-hmm. Right. And we know here in Grand Rapids, we have like, I don't know, it's like 57 people come out of the woodworks and said, we want to help Black and brown businesses during this time.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, here are the requirements.
Boom.
And the requirement, you're knocked out. Why are you knocked out? It goes back to what we first mentioned. Not having that accountant that can put your books in a way. Not have, and I get people calling me up saying, hey, listen, I had a young lady call me up the other day and says, I get my money through a certain way, Cash App, Apple Pay. And, I'm not going to say her name, obviously, for privacy reasons, but I get my money a certain way. And what would I need to do? So I suggested a specific app that she can now grab that information, right? And I also was able to call up somebody and says, hey, listen, you give people and grant people loans. What do you look for if they've been getting their money this particular way? Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, but that money still goes into a bank. Mm-hmm. And I thought, yes, it does. He says, just backtrack it. Yep. Sale went into the bank on this day. Now you have, and that's what I told her. I said, look, it still goes into a bank, whether it's through Cash App or whatever, it now still can be traceable and you can show a transaction. So you have to now put it into some organized fashion, whether you're using specific apps like the Wave app or QuickBooks or whatever you're using, or your accountant. Now they can go and present that to a place that might give you a grant, if it's just a grant, or if it's one of those 1% loans, whatever it is, against what you are paying. Mm-hmm. That becomes a tip. Right now, one of the other things that I noticed, or one of the other suggestions I can make is, again, that pivot. Can you pivot to a different model? Can you look over and say, hey, that model is working. We're going to do that. We're going to do it at a high level. Yeah. Right. Can you call up who's asking you for money every month? Y'all know who I'm talking about. Based on that big old building, and say, hey, I could stop paying, or I could pay less. Mm-hmm. I can stop paying because the laws have given me the opportunity to not pay. Yeah. But I want to keep the relationship after this thing is over. So is there a way that I can reduce this by 75%? Right? That right there is 75% that's not going against your cash flow. Yeah. You guys with me on that? Right? How do you grow the business? How am I going to now say, hey, I had customers that used to come in. Can I get those customers in a whole different way? Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these companies out there are taking advantage, right? The delivery companies, y'all know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And they're just making bank, but it may be the thing that keeps enough revenue in, especially if you've reduced these expenses. Mm-hmm. That gets you, stays with you, keeps the customers, satisfied, making sure that they're top of mind, all these different things, right? So on your end, can you come up with a couple of ideas that we can leave folks with that says this is how the Black businesses can pivot?
Yes, I can. And yes, I will. One pivot is to, now this one, there's more detail to be. I'll just give the foundation of this is look to see where you can trim the fat meat. Look to see where you can trim. If you're a food service beverage, is there a certain material, cups and things you're using that you need to cut back, or is there a better place that you can purchase them? Is there another company that you can collaborate with? Now you got bulk purchasing. So trimming the fat, number one. Number two, look for partners to collaborate with. For my business where, juices, smoothies, and whatnot. We put together a collaborative package with two other Black businesses. One is cookies and one is popcorn. Now you may look and say, man, those are kind of like two different categories. You got snacks and you have the juices and smoothies.
I think I
But
got
guess
one
what?
of those packages.
Yeah. But guess what though? If that's what the customer wants, give the customer what they want. And then another one is how do you get your products in the hands of your customers? They need your products still, and so you may have to look at how do you deliver or ship them. FedEx, that's what we're using, and then I'm doing some personal delivery now. Again, with the personal deliveries, you want to check with your insurance company, and all of that good stuff. But maybe that's what has to happen as well. To let them know that you still care about them as customers, you're going to do that. You're still keeping them safe during a pandemic, especially. But how do you get the product to them? And I'll say this, Randy, early on, I did not want to do shipping with FedEx because of the shipping costs, right?
Sure.
Then I thought about it. Randy, if my customers want to pay the shipping, why am I not letting them? If they want my product that bad, they want to pay for it, why am I saying no? I think that is, I think that's too expensive for you, So I just started letting them do it. If they get to the end and decide they don't want to do it, that's a decision that they're making.
Sure.
I'm not making it for them. So that's the other piece as well, is being able to do that. And then the last one I'll leave you with is the other part of our pivot is how do we show these three things to our customers, but the community: kindness, excellence, and integrity. Those are my family values. Those are my business values. Kindness, excellence, and integrity. How do you still serve the community even out of your lack? Because by planting those type of seeds, you will come into an abundance very soon. Those are going to be the people that will keep you afloat and then help fan some wind in your sail so that you can be smooth sailing later.
See, that's all good stuff, guys. And, you notice that we had a little bit of a bent toward the restaurant industry, and that's simply because of who I'm talking to today. We just wanted to talk to, and not specifically, but this can extend out. The business model is that you're constantly trying something new. You're constantly trying and modeling things that you believe that could reduce expenses. So that could be related to most business, right? If you're a consultant, you should be at your computer from sun up to sundown, learning, and this is what I do because I'm up from sun up to sundown, learning something new, packaging what I just learned, give it away if you're seed dropping, and or charging for it because it will have maximum value to folks, right? So those become opportunities. You are one in the that I had wrote down in my notes is delivering your menu, right? So let's say you sent your menu to folks, you miniaturize it, whatever you did, you send it over to folks. You did it as a mailing. It costs you a little bit of bucks, but it's keeping you top of mind, and you are now you're not going on the retail model, the walk in and buy model. You're just now going out to folks, right? And you might get some sales from that. It's all about trying different things, because if you get a menu, sometimes you don't throw that menu away, right? And you go, that's a menu. Great. I'm glad for this. Here's how we're going to keep you healthy. We're coming to you. Well, how are you doing that? Well, during this time, if I have to get in my car, if I have to come over to you, I went over and got some juice off his porch. I bought it, but my wife and I, we went over to his porch. But that is about, and that's beyond the hustle and grind, guys, right? And that is about saying, how can I think strategically? Now, did he have to be there? No. Was he still selling some juice? Yes. Was he still, I'm going, man, this guy is doing whatever it takes. That's one of those things that it comes down to. So no, I got a couple more ideas and I want to share this with you. And then we can, get out of here. So I thought of this one. This one's maybe like, crazy, right? But it was like Zoom breakout dinners, right? Again, this is in the if you're in the restauranting space, right? I would love to see virtual dinners. I even you should see it. I got my little notes here and I got it all, right? I got little pictures and everything, right? Zoom virtual dinners. Like, wow, what's a virtual dinner? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's you as a chef cooking some stuff up. if I saw something like that, my mouth is going to stop watering. And if my mouth starts watering, then at the end, I have the link to order. Think about that now. You're just cooking. You're just doing something. You're just putting information out there. You're just making sure that information is a visual. And people are going, oh my gosh, I want that. Right? And you says, yep, virtual dinners. Here's how you can order. You're like, I normally eat this stuff. I wish the restaurant that I typically go to all the time sent me something via email that says, hey, we're here for you. In fact, watch us cook it up. You can have one other person. The owner can be in there cooking and saying, here's your plate. And I'm going, where's my plate? Here it is. Right. And I would order that immediately.
Yep. Yeah.
Some things to think about, right? Now, here's another one. During this time, you know, if you don't know how to do this stuff, I'll be more than happy to help you. But you could run ads, geo-target just in your area. Maybe you use that piece of video that you had and you run ads just to people in your area that may have not even come to your restaurant. Right now, Jermale talked about making sure that you can deliver on that because you might get a whole bunch of orders in. But guess what? If you now are running your kitchen as a kind of a ghost kitchen, if you will, right? You get a chance to get the orders in and call in the chefs.
Yep.
They cook it up. Now somebody's out there and there's some software out there. There was, I think was it Robert Johnson? Robert Johnson. Who's the guy, the black billionaire? He has a company. Is it Robert Johnson or?
Yep.
Okay.
Bob Johnson. Yeah. Robert
Not
Johnson.
Bob, not the Bobcat owner, but the other guy, the guy that gave, it's still Robert Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So he had some apps. I think one of them, Robert Smith. So Robert Smith, that's what his name. He had an app called QuickBase, right? And it was an app that a software that allowed you to, swipe the card or whatever it is, right? I know some people use Cash App, but for certain restaurants, you got to use a certain way so they can collect those sales, right? What about utilizing the Square app? And, the Square app, they've got Square Checkout, right? And I'm sure they got a mobile version by now. But what it also allows you to do is keep a track of your business ongoing. Yes. And it's keeping a track of your business ongoing because the Square, what they typically do is they say, hey, do you need a loan? We notice that your sales are this and that. So we'll loan you based on what we know your business is doing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, these all become, possibilities to just stay in business.
And Randy, let me say this too. As you mentioned Square and some of the other apps. Those are also programs that would allow you to pull numbers and things when you need them. And I'm saying that because I just had to do that with someone hit me up and wanted to offer me 10 hours of consulting for the wholesale of my juices. And 10 hours is $2,000. And they were like, we'll pay for it for you. But I need to know what your sales are and the categories. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I, because QuickBooks, we don't have QuickBooks set up that way, right? And I was like, wait, my point of sale system for the past year has been Square. So I went in, looked at items, and then looked at categories. Now I can say, here's smoothies, here's juices, here's food, here's apparel, and put that on a spreadsheet and send it to them. And I'm not sitting here guessing and trying to round up. And then when they actually say, okay, let's verify your numbers, I'm like, actually, I just made those up. So having that stuff and getting it now can help you even later.
Now you guys heard that, right? That's one of those tips that we promised that we would say at the end here, right? And hopefully you stay to the end to see using a technology or using a specific tech that allows you as the black business to go in and be with the bigs. There's some other software. I had a friend that I can't for confidentiality reasons, I can't tell you what one he was using, but he used a software to run his whole restaurant. That software sends him a message that says, well, you got 9, waiters and waitresses around. You don't need 9. Why? Because historically it's been slow, or right now it's slow. Send them home. Yep. He could literally call up and says, send them home. Right? I mean, think about that. Now, these are little things that you can incorporate in your business that levels the playing field. Yeah. Right? You no longer say, you're not a black business. You're a business that happens to have black owners. You get where I'm going with this, because you got all the technology, you've got all the infrastructure that any big company could have. Take a page out of what Starbucks had to do. Now they got to cut restaurants. That's real estate. That's commercial real estate, right? That might not come back. Now they're going with a whole different model. And Big B over there, they're saying, hey, look, this is what we started with.
Yeah.
So we don't have to cut in order to grow. Think about those two models. We don't have to cut in order to grow. Your business could be starting right now. I heard of another one. Here's one I heard of just recently, and some of the research I had been doing, called ghost kitchens.
Yep.
Have you ever heard? Okay, so ghost kitchens. You had in this particular case, what I was just reading, it was like 9 restaurant brands. Y'all heard what I just said? 9 restaurant brands in one place. Now that's not new. The guy that started Uber is coming up with not only what does he call it? Cloud kitchens, right? It's all delivery. Now, guess what? COVID-19 hit before they had rolled it out, but the concept has been out there. They had been raising money. He put in like $300 million with that idea, just delivery. Now, who does that help? Just delivery folks. What if you had a side business? All it was delivery, and it served your company. I'm just saying, right? The liabilities off of you because people are using their own car, blah, 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 right? So now, is that model new? No, Domino's did it back in the day. I drove pizza car, right? I used to drive those little cars until they started running over folks. I didn't run over folks, but they ran over folks and they had to get rid of the cars. But they have pivoted to you using your own car. Delivery has been around for a while over there. And people says, that's a good idea. Look around. Listen to what some of the stuff that J.E. Speaks is going to be talking about. Jermale is going to be, rolling out. You guys can always find me on some of my platforms because we're rolling out these ideas often and sometimes in certain cases on Wednesdays for free. Okay. There's no reason. Every single thing you need is near. It's near. And sometimes it's free. But if you have to pay a couple of bucks to a consultant, maybe you can trade, just like you heard Jermale talk about. Hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to trade $2,000 worth of juices, and I'm going to give you this.
Yep.
You're monetizing your life, guys. This is I get excited. I can keep going on and on. But that becomes what is possible. We just wanted to come on and share a little bit of this with you guys. Hopefully you can reverse engineer it. Any help you need, Jermale, leave them information where they can find you.
Yes. I can be reached at best way to reach me, honestly, these days is email. It's Jermale, Jermale at malamayajuicebar.com.
Okay, guys, and I'm gonna tell you, this is on Zoom. Here's another tip: when you are speaking on Zoom, do this thing. All right, you can type in. And I'm going to show you this real quick, right? So you can reach me over at Randy at Otterbridge Business Institute. And you'd be like, oh my God, that's too long. All right, so here it is. Randy at, so I'm typing it in. This is something that you are putting on your Zoom recording so that, guess what? It's little marketing. Come on, that's what I do. Randy at RBRIDGE, Otterbridge Business Institute. I better not spell it wrong. .com. OutbridgeBusinessInstitute.com. Let me make sure I got it right here. And boom, right there it is. Look right at the bottom of your screen. You're putting in a little bit of where you can be reached, right? And you just change it up here. If you guys, you guys seen some of my YouTube stuff. So, I'm always teaching this stuff. Randy at OutbridgeBusinessInstitute.com. That's the email. Get in touch with us. Listen out for J.E. Speaks. Have you launched it yet, or is it still in the pre-launch stages?
Yeah, it's in the pre-launch stages as far as platforms go, but I've still been working and doing consulting and business coaching here, even though things are kind of still in that pre-launch stage. So folk are still needing services, and honestly, they catch me right now, Randy. It's probably a little bit cheaper if they catch me right now than when
y'all heard
launches.
it. I'm expensive.
So I just wanted to put it out there.
He's cheap. I got a friends and family rate, and then I got the corporate rate. but I can tell you all of these things are, that we're going to be talking about are actionable. Look,
Yes.
Google me, do what you need to do, right? To see, is this guy for real? And
Mm-hmm.
you'll see what we're talking about. You got a lot of people out there trying to be consultants and trying to be, haven't done nothing, but you can actually go and see some of the stuff that we've done. JE Speaks is on its way, but you can still reach him. You see right down there, it is Jermale at malamayajuicebar.com. And I'm at
Boom.
Randy at ourbridgebusinessinstitute.com. And I tell you, we would love to be of service to you. How can we put some seeds into your life so you can go plant them and grow your own garden? That's all we're saying. And we're going to leave you with that. Jermale, I want to thank you, man, for coming on and doing this, the Black Business Pivot. This is not a show. It's, just kind of something I came up with and says, you know what? We got to talk about this. We're Black.
Right.
We're in business, and we got to be able to help as many people as we possibly can.
That's right.
So thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you for having me again. Thank you for all the work you're doing. I look forward to hearing from all those who are listening and watching this.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next time.